Welcome back, guys. We're playing City Skylines and we are building London. Oh yeah, this is going to be an amazing project. And I promise you, we're going to have more fun than Lindsay Lohan at a wine tasting. Now, this is the centre of London and it is packed with landmarks. From right to left, you've got like the O2 Arena. You've got the Canary Wharf Tower, Tower of London. You've got Tower Bridge. You've got the Elephant and Castle, you've got St Paul's Cathedral, you've got Westminster Abbey and Big Ben, you've got Buckingham Palace, like all the major landmarks, and we're going to be putting in all of that stuff. But I thought, rather than just do the centre of London, which the problem is it's just going to be solid packed with buildings, I thought we'd do something a little bit more interesting. So I thought we'd extend this out a little bit. And I'm extending it out to the southwest. Now, why am I doing that? Well, a couple of reasons. First reason is, this is where I live, Kingston upon Thames. I actually live here on Kingston Hill, next to Richmond Park, the beautiful Richmond Park, which is a lovely place. Got nice ponds in the middle, some nice lakes, and there's lots of deer running around, so we can put some wildlife in. But also, we include Wimbledon, so I can put in the All England Club, where you have the Wimbledon tennis tournament every year. So we could put all the tennis courts and all that kind of stuff in. And also, it's a bit greener out here. So I thought, you know, we can make it a bit nicer. Now, what's this blue line? Well, this blue line is actually my route that I used to cycle to work every day. Oh, yeah. Now, this is like 15 miles, which is what? Just over 20 kilometres, about 22 and a half kilometres. And I used to cycle that to work and back every day. And I'm going to do this from start to finish. We're going to start by creating our very own map. And I'm going to show you how to import Heightmaps. Let's do it. Now, this is a site called Terrain Party, where you can create Heightmaps. And for some reason, it starts always with the map over Finland. I have no idea why, but it does. We're going to move this... you can see this little square. This is the area that you're going to import, and we're going to move that. Now, here's Sweden and Denmark, and over here is the UK. So what we're going to do is just drag this little area down to London. Oh yeah, and then we'll zoom into London. So this is the area that we want. Here is central London. Here is the curve of the river that goes around the Isle of Dogs. Now, we've got London City Airport out here, and I think it might be kind of nice to include that because the runway of the airport is actually built in the middle of a dock, so it's surrounded by water. So I thought that might be kind of cool. So we also want to include Richmond Park, which is this green bit over here. Here is Kingston. So what we're going to do, over here, you can set exactly how much terrain you want to cover. So we're going to increase this. It starts at a default of 18 kilometres. We're going to increase that. Now, this covers your entire City Skylines map. So you've got the outside border and then the inside 5 squares. So obviously for the buildable area, we need our inside 5 squares to be covering the area that we want. So this is the area that we're going to end up with, and the map encompasses most of Greater London. This road running around the outside, this is the M25 motorway. So for the Americans, that's our freeway that runs all around the outside of London. And we've got the major motorways coming in. So we've got the M1 motorway coming in here. We've got the M40, the M4, the M3, the M23, which goes down to Gatwick Airport, which is down here. We've got Heathrow just over here. Now, remember, we can only build on the 5x5 square in the centre. So we're going to have to play maybe a few liberties and maybe move Heathrow Airport in a little bit to get that on the map. But we do have London City Airport over here. And we've just about included Kingston. We've got the river running down this side. So I think this is probably the most interesting part of London. And we should have all of our highway connections, which will be very, very important. So how do we export a height map from Terrain Party? Well, it's so easy. All you do is just go over to this button, Export, and click on it. What do you want to call it? You know what? We'll call this Greater London. Click OK, and that's it. It will download the file to wherever you download your files to on your computer. Now this arrives on your PC as a zip file, and it should contain several files, several different height maps. Take the height maps, and then we're going to move them into the Heightmaps folder. And the Heightmaps folder you should find in Windows, Users, Your Username, AppData, Local, Colossal Order, City Skylines, Addons, MapEditor, Heightmaps. Right, that's a lot to remember. You know what? I'll include that in the video description. So how exactly are we going to import our Heightmaps, and how are we going to work with them? Well, this is a fairly complicated process, I think. We'll go down here. Here are the 4 Heightmaps that we got, and you'll get anywhere from 0 to 6 depending on the part of the world that you're trying to import. And they do produce very different results. Let's take a look. So this is the Aster 30, and if we import that one, you can see that you get quite a lot of detail. And if we look over at, I think this is the best example, if we look over at the River Thames, you can quite clearly see the river winding in here. But when it gets to here, the river seems to just stop. And if you look very closely, you can just about see the outline of the river coming around here, but you've got to look pretty darn closely. And when you come over to this side, that like trying to pick the river out, like, is that maybe the bend of the river there? So what I suggest is that you use a combination of all of these. Now there is a merged version which takes these 3 maps and merges them into one, but you can get different information from these different maps. So for example, if we look at this, the SRTM3 version 4, this gives a lot less detail in terms of the heights, but if we look here, we can quite clearly see the course of the river, right? And if you zoom in, you can get quite a lot of detail about exactly where the river course is going, which we weren't getting from the other map. Now that's fine, but if I make a change on this map, so let's say over here, let's say I dig out part of this river, and I'll explain and go through all the terrain tools and how you use them. But I'm just gonna like dig out a section here. So it's like, okay, my river goes here. The problem is, if I then import a height map, another one, let's say this is the one that I'm going to use, the merged one. If I import that, oh, my change is gone. I've lost it. Well, here is a huge tip if you want to use information from multiple maps. Let's go back to our version 4. So if this is the bit of the river that I want to record, then I can go to let's see, go to trees, right, and pick a nice big tree, and then plop some trees down, indicating the path of the river. Actually, is that the best tree to use? I don't know. No, these pine trees are much better. We can mark out the path of the river coming along here. Now when we import the height map that we actually want to use, the trees stay there and indicate where our river was going. So what I'm going to do now, I'm going to start working on getting the river put in, because that's kinda the most important thing. So I'm going to work with the different height maps, try and figure out the course of the river all the way across, and then we'll dig it out. Another tip is to look out for bridges that you can sometimes see. Now the river's coming around here, and I know by looking at a map that it kind of comes down here and goes kind of over here, but there's not a lot of information. But this is actually a bridge, and if I look at my map, this is actually Tower Bridge going across here, and the Tower of London is going to be right over here. So I can put in a couple of trees either side, and actually I'm going to make a point of this and say, right, this is where the bridge entrance is, so that when I come to do my roads later on, I can get the exact placement of that bridge. So then I can extrapolate from the position of that bridge where the river must go. So it must come around here. Now here's a really good example of using the different height maps. So the river's coming along here, but then it's kind of difficult to see where the river goes. Now I'm going to use one of my other height maps. I'm going to use the the version 4 again. And look, there I can see clearly the river coming down here. So I can go to my trees, mark it in with a few of these. Boom, 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 boom. There we go. And now I can switch back to my other height map and see if I can continue the path. Now, one other technique that you can use is to use overlays to make sure that you're absolutely bang on track. Now, what I'm going to do here is I'm going to throw up a transparent overlay. Now, I can't see this in game, but what I can do is take a snapshot of the game, export it to either video or photo editing software, and then take a copy of the map, make the map transparent and overlay one on top of the other. And if I overlay this, you can see that, for example, where I've been marking these trees down here, I'm just slightly off. So if I select my trees again, these should be just a little bit to this side. So I'm going to put the correct trees in slightly heavier coming down here, and that should be pretty much bang in line. And again, and once you see it, once you look at the overlay, and I've actually got a hard copy of this in front of me, but I can't see the one on the screen. It's pretty easy to see where things should be, and it even becomes clearer when you look at the actual plain map. You suddenly realise, oh, that's kinda how it should be. And then going up to the top, this should probably be a little bit more like this. Yeah, a little bit more rounded. And then you can pick up some really good terrain features. Like this feature here is actually the A316. Now up here we've got this feature here. This is Hammersmith Bridge going across here. And then we've got this down here. This is Chiswick Bridge, so that we know the river comes through here. There we go. And then if we go a bit further over here, and I can't figure out where this is yet, but just over here we've got Kew Bridge. So I'll figure that out in a minute. But even though I can't see the overlay, I can see from looking at the hard copy that the river goes over the side of this feature, so that I know that the river comes down here. So I'm going to carry on filling this in using the overlays, and like up here I can immediately see that the river actually follows around the outside of this feature. So it's not these trees here, these are wrong. It should come around the outside of here. So let's put these in, bump bump round there. And then what I can do is keep printing out overlays to make sure that I'm staying on the right track. Whew, man, hard work. Okay, I'm pretty happy with that. I've refined it a little, especially round here and just coming up here and a bit round here. I've refined most of it actually, but now I'm pretty happy that I've got the course of the river through here. So now I just move on to another section. So now we can begin to plot the course of the river down through Isleworth Okay, so that's the river done. It's all marked in, the full course of the river. But there are other water features on here. So what I'm going to do is, again, using the same, I've used the same tree all the way through the pine tree. I'm going to use the same tree for this. I'm going to mark in some reservoirs. So we've got one here, and you'll see why I'm marking these in in a minute or two. Because we're actually going to be smoothing out the terrain, because if you tried to build on this, you just wouldn't be able to. So we've got one reservoir over here. I've kind of misshapen that, but that's okay. And then we've got a couple over here. So what kind of shape is this? This is kind of this sort of shape. So we've got one there, and then there is a causeway in between them. Mark that a little bit better, and then we'll leave that causeway there, and this comes just round here. This is a pretty straight edge down here, and it comes across here, and then it's actually slightly curved going around here up to this top corner. Right, cool. So we've marked this reservoir, this one. There's one more, which is quite a big reservoir. Now this shows it's like some kind of feature going across the middle, but there isn't, as far as I'm aware. As far as I'm aware, this is one big reservoir, and it's kind of slightly sort of angular in the shape. So I'll bring it down here, and then up here, and I'll just kind of fill in the sides a little bit. Now the less trees you can use, the better, because you're going to have to delete, well, potentially you're going to have to delete all these trees afterwards. So there are other water features. I'm going to go off and do some of the other water, mark out some of the other water features, but it's also a good idea where the terrain shows you roads, and for example, we've got a major road coming up here. If you want to, you can mark that in, especially in the border areas. It's a good idea if you're going to put road connections in. You can actually mark those off. So I could use like a different type of tree or a small bush or whatever to mark in those roads. Okay, so I've just marked in a couple of roads. I've got one coming down here and one coming down here, and I've used a different type of tree. One that's like kind of significantly different, which is this this wild conifer, which marks them out pretty well. And what I wanted to illustrate to you is if I switch to a different height map now, so if I switch to the version 4, which is much smoother, you'll see that even though we've lost the terrain details, we've still got the routes of those roads. So now with a smooth map, I can go to the road tool and mark in these roads. The problem is that you can't put the roads in on the rough terrain. It needs to be smooth. So you kind of need to put the roads in before you smooth, but you can't put the roads in until you've smoothed. It's catch-22. So marking out with these trees is a great way to keep your features. Okay, I'm going to go away and I'm going to finish marking in the roads and any other terrain features that I want to keep. And then in the next episode, we're going to be getting to grips with the terrain tools. And I'm going to be taking you through each one of these and showing you how to use them to get the most out of your map. We'll be digging out the river. We'll be putting in water sources as well. And I'll be showing you how to use the water spawners and how to correctly set the sea level on your map. And if we've got time, we'll be putting some roads in and we'll be checking off Chirpy's checklist. If you enjoyed this video, hit the like button. If you want to follow the series, make sure you're subscribed. And please, 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 leave me a comment. Let me know what you thought of the video. Let me know what you think of the series. And if you've got any questions or anything you'd like to see, leave me a comment. I'll see you for the next one, guys. This is going to be spectacular. Peace out.